Hi everybody, I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about where to store your files and how to store your files as you work on them, and then once you have completed your design. So the first thing I want to talk about is the desktop. I often refer to putting things on your desktop before we start to work with them in Floriani, and I've had some questions as to what exactly the desktop is. So the desktop is the screen that you see once your Windows has uploaded and is available for you to start working. You'll see that here on my desktop I have things such as Google and my Firefox and then some of my other programs that I work with. And so I have them on my desktop so they're very quick to get to. I don't have to dig through multiple menus to find anything. But you'll notice on my desktop I have created a file that is a WAF file. And as you know, a WAF file is a Floriani file, meaning that we have not saved it into a format that a machine will recognize yet. So when I open my WAF file, you can see that I have multiple files in here that are Floriani files. And then I have files in here that are just strictly JPEGs. Now, my JPEGs are pictures that I'm currently working on or I'm getting ready to work on digitizing so that I can stitch them out. But because they're files I know I'm going to work with, I have them in my WAF file. So let me show you how this is going to work. And we're going to go into Floriani. We're going to tell Floriani that we want a new design and then that we want to open a new design. So in this case, I know that my items that I want are on my desktop, so I'm going to select desktop and then I'm going to find my WAF file, which is right here, and I will double click that, and then here are those same files. And the ones that have the little F in front of them, you see say Floriani files, which means that I've already worked on them or they have stitches applied to them is what it means. Now my JPEGs do not have stitches. However, I can open them. And now I'm in a position that I can start to work on this and I can start to digitize it. So when I'm working on this, if you remember in preferences, we said that it would save every 5 minutes. What happens is as I'm working on it, it will save it as a WAF file. And then when I need to walk away from it, I save it as a WAF file. I save it into this same folder as a WAF. And then it will show up and I'll be able to work on it. Now, if I wanted to open a design that I know is already stitched, again, I'm going to tell Floriani a new design. I'm going to open the design. I know it's on my desktop. I'm going to open my WAF file. And this time, let's open this class file. And I know that this class file is our January 2023 homework project. So here it is. And it's open. And I know that at this point, it is ready for me to save it and take it to the machine. So in this case, I'm ready to save it in both formats, both the WAF and the PES, which is my brother machine. So at this point, I will tell the machine to save as. And this time, rather than going to the desktop, I'm going to go to this PC. And in my case, I actually have a secondary hard drive in my computer that holds nothing but embroidery files. Most of you will probably go into your hard drive, but in my case I'll go into my embroidery hard drive, which is a double click, and as you can see I have multiple files on this particular hard drive. I know that this is a Floriani, class file. So I will find my, eventually, I will find my folder that contains my Floriani class projects. Eventually. Okay. Excuse me. So here's my Floriani class file folder. This is where I want this particular file to go. So I will double click it, and you can see that I have already saved this in here as a WAF file. But just to make things clearer for me, as we move through time, I'm going to rename this January 2023 quilt block, and I will save it. So I know, and you notice it changed here, and it still is showing the WAF. And then in order to take it to the machine, I am going to come back, and you notice the machine opens it up into the same file for me. Now this time I'm going to change this, and I'm going to make it a PES file. And the PES is so that I can take it to the machine and I can stitch it. And I have saved that. Now, because I have both files, you'll see that I have the PES file and I have my Floriani file. So if I decide that I want to come back in and I want to make some changes to this at some point, I will open the Floriani file and do the work on it, and then I will save them again with the updated changes that I made. Now, one of the things that I do highly suggest as you start to save files and gain your files is be pretty specific when you name your files. At some point you may come back and need to find something that has flowers in it. And so if you put the word flower in it and run a search, and I'll show you how to do that in another video, but you can find all your flower files to go through if the title has the word flower in it. In this case, I know that these are quilt blocks, and so if I need to search for quilt blocks, it would find that. So Microsoft's pretty good about letting you have some pretty lengthy names. For example, if you notice up here, some of my file names are pretty lengthy. And that's fine because it helps me specifically find something when I'm looking to do that. So once you have that saved to your computer, that's a great step. But I highly recommend you take some time, do a little research, and find yourself an external hard drive. And I think we've talked about this in class. They are fairly good as far as memory anymore. There's quite a bit of memory on them. You can get them at Walmart, you can get them at Staples or Best Buy. They're pretty easy to come by. I suggest that you have one for a couple of reasons. Once you spend a lot of time on creating files and making them your own, there is nothing worse than your system going down and you have totally lost all those hours of work, especially if it's a file you may come back to at some point. So if you have an external hard drive, and on a regular basis, I try to do mine at least every 2 weeks, you go in and you update all of the files that you have worked with. Should you ever have a computer issue, you will not lose all those hours of work or the amount of money that you have spent from downloading particular files. So this is a great option to save your work, and you're going to do it pretty similar to the way that you would do a USB save. You've got a USB cable on these. You're going to connect that USB cable. Pardon me as I'm out of the screen for a minute. You'll connect your USB cable to your computer, and then again, you can see where I have backed up all of my designs, and so I would say, you know, that I wanted to find this particular design, and I will go over this in another video, but this shows you that, you know, here's all your same designs, here's everything that you've worked on, everything that you've purchased, and it gives you the ability to protect that. Now, the one thing I will tell you is that if you have this connected to your computer, once you are done with the backup, make sure that you pull it off and you store it away safely. If it is connected during a time frame that your computer goes down, it can damage your external drive, and that is the last thing you want. So once you have added the file you want to add, make sure that you disconnect that file and no longer have it attached to the machine, just to protect it. So the next thing I want to talk about is your USB, and I know that most of you are fairly familiar with the process of taking your project and saving it to your USB and then moving it over to your computer. Now, for those of us that work in Floriani, it's a very similar process to those who don't do Floriani, and they just put the design onto the USB and then they move to the machine. For our purpose, I'll show you how to do this in Floriani. If you need instruction on how to do it outside of the program, put that in the comments below and I'll be happy to send you the instructions on how to do that. In this particular case, we're going to put our USB into the machine. There is our USB that has popped up saying that the machine knows it's there. We'll go File, Save As, and this time we're going to come to this PC. And now you see that we have an option for a USB drive F. And we want to save the January 2023 quilt block. However, we do not want the WAF format on the USB because your machine will not read a WAF file. So in this particular case, you need to make sure that you change this to your machine extension and then have that selected, tell it to open, and now you're going to tell it to save. Now when you take this USB out of the machine and you move it to your embroidery machine, you will have access to the file that you have just saved. So hopefully this will help you guys develop a little bit of a plan on how you want to store your items, how you want to work with particular items, especially your WAF files that you may be accessing frequently. If you have any questions or you have any concerns, please put them in the comments and I will be happy to get back to you. Thanks.